about if every time I go camping, I tell an Army story? So I know a lot of people want to hear Uncle Voodoo's Army Stories come back. Uncle Voodoo's Army Stories was a series of videos I did almost a decade ago. It's been a long time. And like I said, that shows how long some of these people have been subscribed to me. They're still asking for more of those videos. So maybe I'll tell one every time I go camping. How about that? We'll make a compromise. Because I got the name Uncle Voodoo. Voodoo was my call sign and nickname while I was in the Army. And then the uncle part came around because of the Army stories. People were asking me to tell stories about when I was in the Army. And like I said, it's something I don't really talk about much. So I agreed to tell stories that were that had to do with like training and like funny things that would happen. I wasn't going to tell like war stories or anything like that. So I made the comment on the very first one because that was, at that time I had only planned to do that one. I was just going to tell one story and that was it. Because I said I don't want this to become, you know, the Uncle Voodoo's Army Stories channel. And as soon as I said that, the name Uncle Voodoo, people started calling me Uncle Voodoo. And they were wanting the Army story. They're like, we want Uncle Voodoo's Army Stories. And so that's how the name Uncle Voodoo came about. And it just stuck. So that's how that happened. The name Voodoo, I got that. I was a new private, just got out of basic. You know, I'm E1, no rank on my collar. I was bottom of the barrel. And when I got out of basic and got to Fort Drum, where I was stationed at, the 10th Mountain Division, we had a sergeant who would harass the guys if a bunch of us went out to the smoking area to smoke a cigarette. Because like smoking indoors was becoming a thing. You know, before that you could smoke anywhere you wanted. And so it was becoming a thing where you couldn't smoke indoors and things like that anymore. So the Army made like little landscaping timber boxes that, you know, filled with gravel, and you had to go stand in this box. And that was the designated smoking area. So we were kind of a captive audience in this little box. And it wasn't like a box, it was just a perimeter on the ground, you know, some gravel in it, you know, nice and tidy. But that you had to stand in there if you were smoking. And so we had this one sergeant. And he was really religious to a fanatical extent. You know, evangelical Christian, but to the nth degree. He's one of them people that believe demons really exist and they're out here, you know, hiding behind trees and stuff. You know, one of those guys. And so we'd be out there smoking, and he would come out there and put us all at the position of parade rest, so we couldn't move, couldn't talk. You know, and all we could do was stand there and listen to what he had to say. And he would preach to us about how we're going to hell because we're smoking and ruining our bodies, and our body is a temple of the Lord and all this. And it just sucked. There's nothing we could do about it. You know, he outranks us. He's a non-commissioned officer. We're a bunch of privates. And like I said, he would do this all the time, and it was just got on my nerves bad. And I was in my room one night, polishing my boots, and I was eating dinner and watching TV. And I was eating hot wings. And I was watching this show on TV. I can't remember the name of the movie. I'd have to look it up, and I'll annotate it in here somewhere. But it starred these two bodybuilders who were kind of like B-movie actors in the 80s. They were twins, and they were called the Barbarian Brothers. And they were semi-truck drivers in this movie. That's about all I can remember about it. But they had this like voodoo chicken bone in the glove box. So every time they would like get into a hairy situation or something, they would get this chicken bone out of the glove box and start chanting, you know, chicken bone, lucky, lucky chicken bone.
Chicken bone, lucky, lucky chicken bone.
To try to get them through whatever peril they were facing. And so I'm eating hot wings, so I've got a chicken bone in my hand, I'm watching this, and I'm like looking at my boot laces, and pretty soon it dawned on me, you can't wear jewelry in the Army, like necklaces and things, but you could wear a chain, a single chain with a religious symbol on it, a cross, Star of David, whatever your religion was. And my dog tags, I had no religious preference, and I'm not religious. And I just had no religious preference on my dog tags. And so I was thinking about it. I was like, I could take a leather bootlace, clean up one of these chicken bones, tie it to the bootlace, wear it as a religious symbol, and change my religion from no religious preference to voodoo. And that's my religious symbol. So the next time this sergeant came down, I went to the little Army surplus store off base and had him make me a new set of dog tags that said voodoo was my religion. So I actually had the official dog tags with voodoo on them, ready to go, and my chicken bone. And so the next time he came out and started haranguing us about smoking, I started chanting at him and shaking my chicken bone, and he was like taken back. It was it kind of freaked him out. And so I was kind of like chasing him around with this chicken bone, chanting at him with voodoo. And so he ended up leaving, and everybody thought it was funny. They got the joke. They knew what I was going to do. And he went and tried to turn me in for, I don't want to say insubordination, but it was like, it wasn't assaulting an NCO, but it was like disrespect to an NCO or something like that. Because I chased him out of there with the chicken bone. And so I got called into the commander's office because he wanted to hear what I had to say for myself. And so he asked me what was going on. So I told him the whole story, and I told him, voodoo is my religion, and he's out there, putting his Jesus curse on me, and I had to, protect myself with my chicken bone. And, and played it straight, as if I was really, a subscriber to voodoo. And, this was my talisman, I had to defend myself, to ward off his evil curse, Jesus curse that he was putting on me. And the commander was like, well, you're right. I mean, he can't be infringing upon your religious freedoms. And so they called him in, told him to leave us alone, because we weren't of his religion. So he had no business preaching at us and, haranguing us about this stuff. And so he was told to leave us alone, and that was the end of the story. It never happened again. But I got tagged with the nickname Voodoo. So instead of private whatever, I was, hey, Voodoo, come here. And, pretty soon that became my call sign on the radio. Then once I became an NCO and had my own group, I was Voodoo 6 was my call sign. Voodoo was the squad. And so then when I got out of the Army, the internet was becoming a thing. And you had to have usernames and passwords for every site you signed up for. So I just ended up using Voodoo as, my username, and it's just stuck ever since. And so then after making some YouTube videos and talking about the Army story thing, and making the Uncle Voodoo comment just off the cuff. I wasn't planning on that going anywhere. I just said it. It just stuck, and so that's how I became Uncle Voodoo. So there it is, your Uncle Voodoo's Army story for this camping trip. Like I said, I'll tell one every camping trip. We'll go back through them all and talk about the good old days, I guess. Even though I try not to live in the past. I try to focus forwards, but figure. If I'm sitting out here with nothing better to do, I'll talk to the camera and I'll tell you guys an Army story.